This is the Executive Profile, exclusively on CBT News.
Recently, I had the opportunity to travel to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and speak with the owner and CEO of Diehl Automotive Group, Corina Diehl. Karina is a remarkable dealer principal who has triumphed over some of life's toughest adversities to get where she is today. After tragically losing her husband Matt in 2007, Karina had a choice to make: either sell her family's dealership or dive headfirst into the business without much experience in the automotive industry. Karina decided that preserving the family's legacy was of the utmost importance, and she went on to learn every aspect of the dealership operation, and she did it well. Fast forward to 2024, and Diehl Automotive Group has grown to an astounding 22 dealerships and 8 collision centers, where her son and daughter are integral parts of the group's operation. Corina Diehl just won't take no for an answer. We sat down with her in one of her newest collision centers. Check it out. Corina Diehl, thank you so much for allowing us to come by and spend some time with you. Your story is so inspiring, so we wanted to come out here, meet you person to person, and get the whole story.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
This is super cool.
Sure. So for some of the people out there in the automotive industry, although there's probably not that many because you've made a big splash out there with your very inspiring story, tell our audience, take us back and tell us how you got into the auto industry and how you ended up running 22 different franchises.
Wow, I got in by default,
Okay.
quite frankly. My husband was the car dealer, and he died.
Okay.
He broke his ankle, got a plate and 6 screws. 4 weeks later, he was brain dead,
Oh my gosh.
paralyzed, and we took him off of life support. So then it unbelievable,
Yeah.
46 years old.
Ah.
So then it became a decision of, what do I do?
Right.
We had 2 children. And when he died, Rachel was 12 and Matt was 18. And of course, the sharks came swimming. You know,
Sure.
you want to sell the store, but
How many stores did you have at the time?
we had 1.
Okay.
We
one.
had 70 employees,
Wow.
1 location.
Right.
But, you know, I wanted to keep it for his legacy and
Sure.
for what we had dreamed about.
Sure.
So it was about 4 weeks later, I walked into the dealership and decided I was going to be the car dealer. And what a story, right?
And up until that point, had you played a role in the dealership operation?
I did some minor things.
Okay.
I was the stay-at-home parent.
Okay.
I was raising the kids.
Sure.
I was involved in their lives, and Matt was the one doing that side. It was kind of a traditional relationship, right?
Sure. That's as it is in so many cases with
Yeah.
dealers today, right? And so you make the decision at that point in time. No, I'm gonna be the dealer principal, and we're gonna run this thing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I went in, and I would keep the door closed because I didn't know what I was doing, quite frankly, you know?
Sure.
And what the staff would do was daily, they would bring in everything Matt was looking at.
Sure.
So back then we had all the paper, right? Like
course.
they'd put a doc on my desk that was this big. But I'd call people. There were so many wonderful people
Yeah.
helping me behind the scenes.
Sure.
And I'd call them and say, hey, this is called a doc. What do I do with that?
Right.
You know, and they'd walk me through it.
Sure.
But I would never let anyone else know I didn't know.
Okay.
It was really important, you know. And then one day the controller knocks on the door and comes in, and Lisa said, you know, the ladies don't know what to do when the door's closed. When Matt had the door closed, you weren't allowed to disturb him. I was like, open the door.
Yeah.
And that's when
Yeah.
it really began
Wow.
and probably
Yeah.
really hit me because
Sure.
I was learning so much. I'm still learning today.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's
Sure.
such a crazy business.
There's no question about it. And from that point, were the OEMs okay with everything?
Oh, no, not
Or
even
they
a little
weren't?
bit. No, I was a wife coming in.
Sure.
And one of the manufacturers really didn't want to approve me.
Hmm.
So I spent about 8 months. I would have to give them a daily list of tasks that I did, and I did it with my attorney.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Wow.
But I wasn't
Yeah.
qualified.
Yeah.
Even though we had a great staff.
Yeah.
So
And
finally,
you're selling cars, you're making money.
we're
there's a-
still
there's-
doing
right.
everything we were doing,
Sure,
you know, and finally the dealer placement guy called me, who I loved. And he said, listen, in the history of this company, Karina, they've never had this situation and they're not going to approve you.
Oh my gosh.
Now, okay, I
Yeah.
have 2 kids to feed and I have 70 team members that we're
Sure.
feeding. And that's when I said, okay, if this is what you're going to do, I'm on the phone. I'm going to call every national news agency and I'm going to tell them how you're going to take a widow with 2 children's livelihood away. They approved me the next day.
Interestingly, how that happens.
Right?
Yeah.
But maybe they needed to know I would or could.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure,
You know,
no question.
when I look back at it, I think, boy, I was ballsy.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but I had kids to fight for and a family I was feeding.
Sure. Do you think it's the same way today? Do you think their reaction would be the same today?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how they look at qualifications. I do know, though, that we were a stable company. So, yes.
That's the catcher right there. I can see if you were losing money,
Right.
and they were concerned, and they said, hey, we got to get a real operator in there that knows the industry, maybe better than you at the time.
Absolutely.
But for a company that is doing well, it's just back off and let them do well. Right?
Yeah. I mean, the good news is we're partners now, and I've acquired a few more of their stores, and
that's great.
You know, we get along really well.
That's fantastic. So you've got the store, you're running it, and what kind of walk me through, because now you're at 22 franchises, or
we're at 22 dealerships.
Okay, 22 dealerships.
8 campuses.
Okay.
13 franchises.
Wow.
8 collision centers.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, your husband's got to be looking down, going.
That or she's totally nuts. You know, I'm not sure what he's thinking.
Sure. What was the first store that you bought after that original store that you took over?
So fast forward. So Rachel was still my daughter. Our daughter was still at home at that time. And, you know, her world changed dramatically.
Yeah, of course.
So we became best buds. We were inseparable.
Sure.
So now she's getting ready to go to college.
Yeah.
Which was going to be a total change in my life and hers.
Sure.
So ultimately, instead of buying a handbag, I went and bought another store.
Oh, sure. That's what you do.
That's what you
Could
do.
have out of the mall, but no, I'm going to go.
Well, I knew I needed to fill a lot of that void because we had been together alone for so long that my best friend was leaving me. And I did it. My accountant said, don't do it. Everybody told me not to do it. But the minute you tell me that.
That seems to be the Karina brand, right? I mean, that you built. It's like, don't tell her, don't do it.
And I totally agree with you. I think that's how I roll. And I knew I needed something. And I spent 12 hours a day, and that store is successful. And
that's fantastic.
I'm so proud of it. And,
I would imagine, too, that other OEMs maybe came knocking and said, we've got this incredible female operator and dealer. We want her on our team as well. Did you find some of that?
No.
No? Okay.
Can we get them to come knocking, right?
No, but do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a great story, and you're a great operator. You would think that they would say, look, we need somebody like that as a dealer. You know?
I would hope someday they will.
They will.
I'm still
but you had to
trying.
fight for everyone.
And I'm still fighting,
No,
Not as hard as I used to, but yes,
That's something. So you've got all of these franchises. The expansion plans are continuing, or
they are. I mean, first of all, let me be very clear. I don't do this alone. This is a group effort. We have a tremendous team. My son's very involved in the business. I have key reports. Yes, expansion is always in the picture. I'm getting older, but my son's really good at spending my money.
He's not watching today, or maybe you want him to be watching. Today, right?
No, we joke about it. Down the road, I see us buying more stores.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. Wow.
I do.
That's fine. Do you get? And I've asked this to a number of dealers here recently, but because the M&A activity is so strong out there, do you get calls periodically of people that say, "Hey, Karina, do you want to sell?"
Oh, all the time.
Oh, you do?
All the time. I get emails, I get calls,
Sure.
and we're not for sale right now.
Yeah, not doing it.
No, I'm not there. I mean, I'm building a legacy for my family, for my grandchildren.
Sure.
I don't listen. You never know, right? You don't know what the years bring on, but
Sure. I was in where we met earlier today at the Stellantis store, and you had these incredible motivational sayings all over the walls in that dealership. Tell me about that. What was the motivation behind putting those up there? They're very inspiring.
They are.
You don't typically see those in car dealerships.
You don't.
Yeah.
I would tell you they were some of the sayings that got me through life that
Yeah.
still do. You know, I'll walk in there and look around and it touches me personally.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have people that come in and take pictures and
Wow.
relate, which is, again, you don't see them
Sure.
in dealerships.
Sure.
But I think when you look around, it's very motivational.
There's no question about it. I found myself, I couldn't stop reading until the last one. You know, 'cause
Exactly.
one was better than the
Exactly.
next. And that was a very, very nice idea. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no
Thank
question.
you.
So you're probably uniquely qualified to answer this question, I would say, and that is, how do we get more females into this great industry? I mean, you are living proof that females can run dealerships very successfully, many cases better than their male counterparts.
I totally agree with
Right.
that. I totally agree.
Sure.
I think we as women have to get out there. We have to hit these young women when they're in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We have to hit them at the trade schools. We have to offer opportunities. I think that women still believe, even younger women, it's all about men.
Yeah.
You know, you think of car dealerships, you think
Yeah,
about
I know,
men.
I know. It's male dominated.
Totally.
Yeah. No question.
But there are so many phenomenal opportunities
Yeah.
for women, whether it's as a technician,
Mm-hmm.
office, I mean, sales, management.
right.
The sky's the limit if you
right.
choose it. Internet departments, rental departments. There's so many opportunities, but we as women
Right.
need to go out and grab these young women
Sure.
and let them
Bring them in.
intern with us. Let them see the career opportunities that we're offered.
Sure. When we speak to women that are in the industry, they will say, you know, I got out of the industry, you know, because the hours are so long.
Right.
And I can't make it to the Little League game or to the recital, or, you know, it's too demanding. And of course, the pay, it fluctuates so much if they're in sales or maybe they're writing service or what have you. Do you think that we need a fundamental change as to how we manage that process?
We, Diehl Automotive Group, does not.
Okay.
But I think as a whole, the world has changed. I was on the phone today with the controller. He, this morning, got to watch his daughter dance.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
But the reality is, I encourage people to have a life.
Yeah.
Look, if you need to leave to go to your kids, please leave
Right.
and go watch your kid play ball.
Yeah.
Go enjoy them growing up, because if you don't give people the opportunity
Right.
to have a quality of life in their work environment, to enjoy their family, it's hard to retain them. So I'm a firm believer and I encourage that internally. I think pay is great, but I think women, and I've had single parent women work for me, and I'm the first to say, yeah, you can't get in until 9:30 because you have to put your child on the bus. It's okay.
Yeah.
I lived that life.
Yeah.
I understand being a single parent, but
Right.
I do believe that employers as a whole need to allow people to have a quality of life. I encourage that.
That's great. That's fantastic. And for dealers that are listening, listen up, because that needs to be the case out there. You know, we still hear of the old, you know, you got to be here from bell to bell and then some, right? And if you get promoted, you got to be here at the dealership even more. And that doesn't always work well for some of the females that try to.
I don't think it
succeed.
works well for anyone.
No, you're right. It's a good point.
I
Good
think
point. Kind of
my
old
people,
school.
it's very old school. My people work 5 days a week. There's got to be a quality of life.
Right.
I have them take long weekends, obviously not the end of the month, but
Right,
I make sure that they take a long weekend to rejuvenate. You can't function well at work if you have no home life.
Right. Right. That's right.
You can't,
Right.
and you need
They'll
to.
begin to resent you, right, as an employer.
They'll resent your wife or your husband will resent you. Your kids won't know you growing up. I think it's really important. I know when I took over, I lost a great portion of Rachel's high school years.
Sure.
You know, by virtue of just having to dig in and build. And I wouldn't want anyone to miss those games that I missed.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of attracting and retaining employees, does Diehl have any kind of a program for that, to go out and get good candidates to come in? That's a tough game today, isn't it?
It's a tough game.
Yeah.
I think that where we sit, being a family business, and you certainly know that a lot of these big conglomerates are coming in, buying stores,
know.
and they're corporate now.
Right.
We're still a family,
Right.
and I preach family, family values, time, quality of time. So I think that's a big opportunity.
Sure.
I think pay matters. And I think to the millennial generation, they want time.
Yeah.
They don't really care about pay. You know, they don't want to work 12 hours. But I don't have anyone in my I have a few people, but they choose to.
I was going to say, yeah.
Right,
those
you
people
always
that-
get
right.
them. But yeah.
No question about it. So, so the stores are all doing great. You're looking at opportunities as they come along. You're not selling. I mean, you're in for the long haul.
I'm in for the long haul. I'm always looking at stores if they pencil.
Sure. And and when you think about a succession plan, do the kids want to get into the business and take over, or is it too soon to know?
Well, my son definitely, and he's been a driving
Well, he's spending
force.
the money. So
Yeah, he's spending the money. He's a driving force, but he's super smart, and he is always looking out for us.
Yeah.
So
Is he more like his dad or his mom?
he's definitely like his dad. He's
Okay.
he's quiet. He's somewhat introverted, super smart.
Yeah.
But he's certainly looking at the long-term play
Okay.
for our family, which includes his sister. He has 4 children, his wife, and from that standpoint, I see the Diehl name being around for a long time.
Pretty cool.
Unless I decide to sell before I die, right? That's always the alternative.
That's right. But if business is good and the kids are running the deal and you can leave that as a legacy one day, then that's pretty cool.
It is. It is.
Yeah, many dealers are in your same situation where they feel they're going to pass it on to their children and then maybe their grandchildren, right?
So the first generation builds it, the second generation keeps it going, and the third messes it up, right? Isn't it usually at about the third gen where they're a little silver spooned?
Sure. And they don't have the passion maybe that the founders did to make it go. They look at it as, well, this is kind of a big paycheck, but otherwise wasn't my idea to get into the car business per se, right?
It's true, and that's how I bought a group. I mean, the third generation just
they didn't want it.
They didn't care.
Right.
Which was a buy for me.
Sure. It's a good opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And so let's change gears a little bit and talk about some things here that dealers are faced with today. As you know, the EV situation has got, the industry kind of on edge, and to say, are we doing EVs? Are we not doing what the consumers are still saying? We don't think we want them right now, at least not at this pace. That the OEMs are wanting to get them out there, and states are changing laws to say we're going to be all EV by 2035. And what is your take on the EV situation?
Makes my head spin.
Yeah.
We aren't in California, we aren't in Texas, and we aren't in Florida. I have EVs sitting on my lots.
Yeah.
I personally am not comfortable with the range yet as a vehicle that I would drive daily because of the amount of mileage I put on my car. I think that that's probably a general consensus, right? We don't trust them. We live in the Midwest, climate, et cetera. The infrastructure is not there.
Right.
I would like to see the manufacturers stay with hybrids. I get what the different laws are in the different states are requiring.
Right.
I don't want to be with a manufacturer that's going all EV in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It scares me. Again, my counterparts in California, they sell a lot of them, right?
Sure.
There's more infrastructure there. I can't tell you that if you drive the PA Turnpike, which will take you about 6 hours, there might be an EV station. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't risk it.
Right. And you're not there yet yourself.
I'm not even there,
yeah.
right? I'm not a believer in it.
Sure. So you think the industry needs to pump the brakes on that?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I get what the government's demanding of them.
Sure.
But when I look at it from a retail standpoint, which is where, we always differ, the OEM and us, and then the government has their rules.
Right. Are the consumers coming into your stores at least asking about them or test driving them? Or not really?
We have a lot of EVs sitting around.
Okay. Yeah.
We do. Hybrids are great.
Yeah.
We're moving hybrids.
Yeah. What do you do with those EVs as you look down the road and say, oh, these things are 120 days, 180 days? I mean, at what
Pay
point?
a lot of floor plan.
Yeah.
I don't know what we do with them,
Yeah.
and I'm struggling with that when I look at our aged inventory.
Sure.
We discount it as much as we can. We know on a wholesale level that they're horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they drop in value substantially if you see what's happening at the auctions with them, and
I know.
it's terrible. You get these people that buy them and come and trade them in, and we're giving them what value is, and they're about to fall over because they paid $70,000 for a car that's worth $30,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know.
That's crazy.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and that'll get around a neighborhood real quick.
It does.
Make sure you don't buy an EV.
It does.
On that topic of gross profits and sale prices and such, during COVID, we saw dealers that were charging, over sticker price because they had the car, and that, many say in the industry that may have hurt us in a big way, that, and maybe the OEMs took note of that and said, hey, maybe we do need to do more of play more of a role in the sales process directly with our consumers, so that the dealers don't abuse the customer on pricing, and maybe some other areas. But where did you stand on that during COVID? That's a tough one, right?
It was a tough one, because we as dealers, it's supply and demand.
Right.
Were we gouging people? I don't think we were. I think if I only had 2 of a particular vehicle and I wasn't getting one for a week, we had to be at sticker, or we had to be over, because that's what the competition was doing.
Right.
Am I concerned about the fallout in the next few years of these trade-ins where people paid so much money for the used car? I see that as such a problem moving forward when they go, because those prices were escalated as well. And where are they going to, how upside down are they going to be?
That's right.
Insanity, right?
That's right. Because it seems like we didn't really learn too much in the industry. I mean, it seems like 3 years ago was yesterday, in the sense that I think that for a little while the industry said, oh, maybe the OEMs learned. We learned as dealers, we can make money on these cars. We don't need to have a 3 or 4 month supply. Maybe we need a 30-day supply. Maybe just a 45-day supply. That seems to not have lasted that long. And now we're back to lots filling up and every dealer fighting each other for that deal, kind of a race to the bottom.
It does seem like we're right back to where we are. Inventory-wise, we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
And there are certainly certain manufacturers I'd love to have more inventory versus others. It's very concerning, and I agree. You would have thought that if we carried a 30-day supply or a 45-day supply, would have been a perfect sweet spot.
Right. And Tesla, they seem to, and this kind of gets back to the EV situation, but they're more of you order the car, they build it, they send it to you. Of course, it's EV. They are selling now, by far more EVs than any other manufacturer out there. Of course, it's a direct-to-consumer sales approach. It looks like there's some manufacturers that are looking at that situation very closely, that are the legacy manufacturers out there. One comes to mind, Hyundai. I know that you've got a couple of Hyundai stores. Amazon and Hyundai just came out together and said, oh, we're going into partnership here to get our vehicles on Amazon. What is your take on that as a dealer?
I find it very interesting and very complicated. So I don't have enough information, and I think they're still trying to work through it as to what their process would be. I just don't see it as a simple solution to selling a car, right? Yes, if you're in my zip code, or however the market area, that they're going to give me that product, but they would be dictating the price, I assume. But we also know that every car's not the same. So for a consumer to click on a button for a $60,000 car, do they understand their option? There's so many complexities there. I'm not sure that it can work. Time's going to tell, and then you talk about the trades and the values and where do we as the dealer fall. So I find it very interesting. I don't have enough information to truly have an educated conversation. But it's a unique concept, but it's not like buying dish detergent.
No,
it's just not that simple, Jim. It's
right,
where you don't like it, you stick it in the package and you drop it back off. You can't just do that, right? Yeah.
It's interesting to me as somebody that's in the media and follows these stories that they kind of did a ready, shoot, aim on the announcement, where it was, all we're going to tell you is that we're going to come out with something together, but we're not going to give you the details.
I was shocked as well. I actually called my son and said, because he's deeper in the trenches with all of this stuff, and said, hey, Matt, what do you know about this? He's like, I don't know much yet. This is all new.
Wow.
And I've talked to some of the higher ups at some of the other manufacturers, and they don't understand it. They don't believe it's going to work, or it's a good concept. So I don't know what the timeline is on that. You may know more than I do.
I don't know anything.
I don't either. It's not like I've been getting emails about it. So
it's crazy.
I think if it can work and be beneficial for all of us, spectacular.
Yeah. What are some of the other issues that you see as a threat to the industry as you sit here over all of these stores and these collision centers? Do you see anything that on the horizon that you say we got to be careful of this or that?
Well, interest rates are brutal right now,
Yeah.
and inventory. I just see the cost of vehicles just skyrocketing.
Yeah. Affordability.
Affordability is brutal, right? And I see the cost of everything skyrocketing.
Right.
I go to the grocery store very infrequently, and I'm like appalled at what things cost.
Crazy.
New car vehicles are becoming expensive. Yes, you can get a Corolla at a reasonable price, and you can get a Mitsubishi, and all of the franchises we have these smaller units available. But
that's not what they want, though.
that's not what you have that consumer, right? But
Sure.
The cost of cars is going to get prohibitive.
Yeah.
And I don't know how people afford them. Do we go from 84 months to 160 months, right? Like, where does it stop?
Right, that's right. And the numbers are increasing on the terms that we're seeing,
Absolutely.
70 and 84 months. And you're wondering, even on that average price of almost $50,000 on a new car, how is that individual building any kind of equity to even trade that vehicle in the next 3 years, right? It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of warning signs, but as a car dealer, I'm so accustomed to adapting to what's given to us. You don't have a lot of choice. We run companies, and we make decisions that benefit us or benefit all of us when we have to. With interest rates and floor plan expense now, I'm all over my people on aged new inventory.
Yeah.
Right? When I'm looking at a new car that I've had in stock for 160 days, somebody better have an answer. It starts to get under my skin because, again, when we look at the cost to floor plan all of these vehicles.
That's right. Yeah. There's no question about it. In terms of some of these disruptors that we've seen out there, Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, they have really made inroads on this direct-to-consumer. Do you think that's a threat to the industry, or do you just, as some dealers say, let them do whatever they want to do and we're good?
Do I feel it's a threat? I don't.
Okay.
I believe that we as dealers offer a heck of a lot. Go try to get your Tesla serviced.
Yeah.
Right? Go see how long it takes. At least you can communicate with us on a daily basis. You can find out where we're located. It's easy. If I'm a Toyota dealer, we're all over the country.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We have service centers. We have the years of experience behind us. Does it scare me? If the whole world went that way, yeah. But I don't believe they'll get rid of the franchise model. People like to deal with human beings as well. I think ordering a car online is great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I also think you need to come in and touch it and feel it and be a part of it.
Sure. Let me talk to you about fixed ops. This was an area that blew up after COVID, right?
Oh my gosh,
It was incredible. And we saw retailers picking cars up from consumers, bringing them in, bringing the loaner car, if there was one available, to the consumer. We even saw companies, and now there's some of the publics that are getting into the mobile business, where they'll send the technician out to your house and fix it right there. And I know I'm dropping a lot on you with this question, but how did you fare through all of that in the last couple of years with regard to fixed ops?
We fared well. I will tell you that I'm all about picking up a customer's car.
Okay.
Right? If we have a loaner available, leaving it with them. I think that's a good mileage matters, right? I'm not going to have my drivers or team go 50 miles, but I think it's really great for the consumer.
And did you do that during that time, and that stayed with you?
We did, and we did it prior, actually.
Okay.
So I thought that was always a good complement to our service department. The mobile side of it, we have to do it for a few of our manufacturers.
Oh, really? They've mandated it?
One has, and 7% of our ROs have to be tied to a mobile repair.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta love these manufacturers that sit in the ivory tower and say, somebody says, you know what? Let's make it 7%.
Like, who decided that was the number?
Right.
But in reality, short of doing an update or a diag, look, we aren't changing tires in someone's driveway.
No, there's no question.
There's no safety.
They don't even want it.
They don't want it. We don't want it. So The mobile side, I can put wipers on your car,
Yeah.
sure. I can do updates, possibly do a diagnostic test.
Right. Okay.
Thereafter, I don't see it as viable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, we have shops with lifts
Yeah.
and equipment and tools to anticipate everything. And yet again, some of the manufacturers are requiring us to do it. You know, that's the difference between the OEM and the retail side. We live it and you are on the retail side.
That's right.
So you
That's right.
totally understand. It's
Totally.
not that simple as getting a van out on the road with a toolbox. It just
And a
doesn't-
technician, which are hard enough to come by right
They
now.
are.
And so, yeah.
That want to be mobile. And I know that some of the EV startups are using that model,
Yeah.
and I don't see it being successful.
Yeah. A lot of dealers that I talked to during COVID, and it was all the rage, digital retailing. That was something we heard so much about. We reported on it a lot at CBT News. Some dealers said, as many as 10 or 15% of the deals we do are delivered right to the home. The entire deal is done online. This is the future. Although the reality is that dipped back down substantially, and now just a few deals a month are done that way. What's your take on digital retailing? You think that's the future of the business, or do you
I think to a degree.
Okay.
I do. I think digital retailing to a degree will always be there. I would be that consumer.
Okay.
But I also believe that people like to touch and feel. Look, it's a huge investment, right? You're buying a home, you're buying a car, or you're buying a car and renting a home.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's a lot to be said about feeling it, touching it, driving it.
Right.
I think there's ways to make the processes easier and quicker, which is what the average consumer would like. Nobody wants to be in the store for 5 hours.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's
you
true.
know.
That we do need to work on that in this industry, don't we? Because consumers are still saying, "Why does it take so long to buy a car?"
Right, but they also forget, Jim, that they're the ones that pick out the color.
Yeah.
They test drive the car. Then we run the
They
credit
negotiate the
app.
deal.
They negotiate the deal. Then we run the credit app, and we
Sure.
have to run a few banks if they're not, way up there. So then we have to get them bought, and then we have to push. The government forces us to push 40 pieces of paper that you have to sign,
It's crazy.
and we have to dot every I and cross every T. So I don't know how we streamline it unless the credit app's done, but we need the car and the cost, and we're trying. Listen, it is. We're trying, but we also try to explain to the consumer that it just doesn't. Now, you can do a portion of it and come back.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
And
we are seeing more consumers do more of the process online, right?
Yes.
And then when they get to the store, I already did the credit app. I already know what my trade is worth. I've already picked out the car. Here's the stock number. Are you seeing that as well?
Different beast, yes. And we do that. We will also give the consumer a car and a gift card to go eat something.
No, that's a good idea.
Right, so they aren't crawling through their skin, killing us on CSI scores. Right, so it makes them happy and it makes us happy that they're out for a little bit.
Sure. Now we're sitting in this incredible collision center that really is just beautiful. It doesn't look like a collision center. In fact, it looks like we're sitting in an upscale hotel lobby. So you did a great job here. What motivated you to get into the collision business? That's something that some dealers say, I don't have the stomach for that. I'd rather buy another car dealership.
I would tell you we're really good at it.
Okay.
And I have a tremendous director who's been a large part of our growth.
Okay.
Being in the collision side, if you don't know what you're doing, I wouldn't recommend it at all. I mean, we're up to 8 collision centers, and we're going to continue to grow.
That's incredible.
I mean, imagine what it feeds on fixed.
Yeah, that's right.
It keeps our customer coming back. The minute we get a loss, our team is notified so we can help the customer get in their next vehicle.
Yep.
Part sales.
Yeah, for sure.
It's huge.
For sure.
But you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. When you and your husband, when he was still alive and running the stores, would you talk about growing the business to this level that you're at today? Was this something that you all said, we're going for it here, we're going to get 22 different franchises or locate now?
Never.
No, never talked about it. Wow.
No,
that's something.
never. And it's just snowballed, and
it's great.
It's been quite a journey.
Oh my gosh, no question about it.
But I leave a legacy for my family in
that's
doing
fantastic.
so.
Karina, so many dealers around the country have their charities that they're passionate about. Okay, and I know you are as well. Talk to us about that and your commitment to those.
It's so important in my life to give back. I grew up. My dad was a carpenter.
Okay.
Didn't grow up with very much, so I really understand a lot of what the world needs.
Sure.
I will tell you that it's embedded in me to give back. Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
I've
Wow.
given them $500,000 in the last 5 years.
Wow,
I
that's
commit
great.
$100,000 a year.
Wow.
They saved my grandson's
Oh
life.
my gosh! Wow.
I've bought. That's a story
Yeah.
in and of
Oh my
itself.
gosh.
We spent 6 months, day and night in the
Oh
hospital
my
with the little
gosh,
guy.
wow.
He's fabulous
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But you know, it takes people like us to give back. I bought bulletproof vests for police officers.
that's great.
I bought a SWAT truck recently for the SWAT team.
Sure.
You name the charity, I'm there. You
That's
know,
great.
it's.
That's great.
But I think that more people need to give.
Yeah. for
You
sure,
know,
for
I
sure.
can't give my time,
Yeah.
but I can make donations and
Right.
make the world a better place.
Right.
I sponsor a month-long pet adoption at the Humane Society where I
that's
pay
pretty
for
cool.
every animal that's adopted.
Oh, that's cool.
Like so many
Yeah.
cool things
Yeah.
we can do,
Of course.
you know, that obviously work well for our reputation,
Yeah.
but more importantly, it
That's
makes
great.
the world a better place.
Yeah, no question about it. And so many other dealers that I've spoken to and had the pleasure of interviewing share those same sentiments. It seems like the dealer community is very charitable, aren't they?
I think we are. I think we all understand how lucky we are to be where we are.
Yep.
And the ability to give back is such a gift.
That's great. That's fantastic. We did talk about the legacy of the stores, which is something that a lot of dealers are challenged with sometimes. If there's family members and there's in-laws and everything else, and is that something that you all work out in advance, and sit down as a family and say, okay, God forbid anything happens to you, this and this and this is all happening?
So I will tell you, I brought my children in and made them partners in stores,
Okay.
skin in the game,
Okay.
money into
Yeah.
the entities. We haven't had that full sit-down talk, but there's trust there, so my children will be protected.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it all plays out. My son's taken a more active role than my daughter cares to, which I'm still working on her. But my
When you say work it out, you'd like to see her in a bigger role? Is that
I
what you- is that what you
would.
mean?
I would.
Okay.
She hasn't quite found her groove and
Okay.
doesn't really want to be a part of it. But but listen, I reeled my son-in-law in, her husband, who's an engineer by training,
Wow,
and
that's great.
it's great.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
young, smart people coming in the business. So I plan on being alive for another 20 years, give or
There
take,
you go.
right?
Right.
And
Got a lot of
so
runway, as they say.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I'm going to continue to watch the world play out and see where it takes us.
Fantastic. That's great. What do you do? I know that this is your passion and you're in the stores all the time, but what do you do for free on your free time? What's your passion outside of the car business?
You know, that's interesting. I call myself a weekend warrior.
Okay.
Right? Because during the week I work, I go to my offices, I
Right,
go home, I
right.
work a little more, and I kind of hunker down in
Yeah.
my little townhouse.
Yeah.
Weekends are meant to be with friends and family,
Okay.
to travel, love the outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
love the ocean. I love to do anything I
Yeah.
can get my hands on.
Sure. And that's it, right? Any
Yeah.
grandkids yet?
4 grandchildren.
Wow, that's great.
My son, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Although one just turned 5, they're a busy family,
That's
and they're
great.
super cute.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Is it your hope that they get into the business one day?
I want them to find whatever makes them happy.
Sure.
You know, whether I have 6 grandkids or the 4 or 8 or
Right.
they're going to be lucky enough to choose to be
Yeah.
whatever that they want to be. Would I like to see this continue? I would.
Yeah.
But again, if it's going to fall apart, then I'd rather see it be sold.
Sure. What advice would you give to your younger self, sitting there maybe in your early 20s and all that you know now about life and the car business and everything else?
That's such an interesting question. I really would have to think about that. What advice would I give?
We'll have to go back and interview you
Yeah,
again.
we're going to have to do that again. Maybe not be so crazy sometimes.
Sure. What would your husband think of all of this? If he,
I would think he'd be
Yeah.
really proud. I would think he would think I was totally nuts.
yeah,
You know, 4 weeks before he died, for whatever random reason, 4 weeks before he broke his ankle, he told me if anything ever happened to him to sell the stores, that it would eat me alive.
no kidding.
Bizarre,
Wow. Look at
right?
that. Yeah.
Bizarre when I think about it.
So
And-
young, 46, 47, yeah.
And I look back and think there was a part of it that did eat me alive for a long time.
Yeah.
This is a tough business.
It is.
You know, when you sit at the top and you're watching your cash flow every day, which You've
Yeah.
been in the retail
Yeah,
side. I
yeah,
mean, cash
I know.
flow's king, and
That's right.
you know, it can really eat you alive. But
Yeah.
you know, would I do it all again? I would.
You would.
I would.
Karina Diehl, owner and president of Diehl Automotive. Thank you so much.
my gosh,
this has
thank
been
you.
such a pleasure.
Thank
really.
you.
This has been great. I know that our viewers and our subscribers will get a lot out of your visit with us. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Great.
Thanks for watching The Executive Profile, exclusively on CBT News.